Northwest Liberty News, picking the lock on the shackles of tyranny.
Machines are going to fail, and the system's going to fail.
The past is past, the future's now.
Don't look at me. I think these people are completely nuts.
Sometimes trouble just follows a man.
There is another organism on this planet that follows the same pattern. Do you know what it is? A virus.
Can't you stop your lips from flapping for 2 little minutes?
It's because I'm white.
I'm a man. I'm sensitive. I need to feel loved. I need to be desired.
I'm rapidly becoming a big underground success in this town.
It's a question of methods. Everybody wants results, but nobody wants to do what they have to do to get them done.
And now, coming to you live from Kalispell, Montana, brought to you by Northwest Liberty News, it's Montana Gazette Radio with your host, James White. Okay, so I'm indeed your host, James White. This is Montana Gazette Radio. Thanks so much for joining me here today on the broadcast. I am delighted to be actually here. We have the season. Let's see what date is it here? It's the 13th day of July 2021. I always like to say that when I start the show because who knows? Some people try to steal shows and play them on their own, and it's always nice to put the date out there. Anyway, so we're already kicking off the campaign season. I'm looking for my guests. I had his there it is. I had his bio, and for some reason it didn't copy over. But we're getting back into the campaign season here already. I guess people have already declared themselves as candidates, and I know that people have announced. Dr. Al has announced, of course, now. He and Zinke are going to be running against each other. My guest today has announced, and a couple of others. I don't know if there's been a whole mass amount of announcements, but nonetheless, we're delighted to have our guest here, Alden Tonkay, on the show with us today. And let me give him a brief introduction, and then I'll bring him on. He is a pro-Trump, America First conservative running for HD 82 in Helena, Montana. He currently works with Attorney General Austin Knudsen, who will be on the show Friday. And one of the big reasons he decided to run is because he was very involved in the legislation tracking at the Attorney General's office and saw that there were so many times that good legislation failed by 1 or 2 votes because of liberal Democrats and weak Republicans with no backbone. I can't disagree. This included the death penalty bill that Austin pushed and the first transgender sex change bill that failed by 1 vote because of rhinos like Geraldine Custer and Mallory Stromswald. He will be a strong conservative voice in the legislature that will not cave to the left and waver on important issues. Some of the main issues he's running on include lowering property taxes, protecting Second Amendment rights, getting the federal government out of local education, protecting public lands, and reducing the size and scope of government. He also plans to be a strong voice for the unborn, women's sports, and putting checks on the radical Biden administration. And we are delighted to have him here today. Let me bring him, Alden Tonkay, let me bring him on the air, and let me unmute his microphone here. There we go, and bring him up. And there he is, right there. Alden, thanks so much for joining us here on the broadcast. We appreciate you taking time to come on the show.
Hey, James, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. So here we are. We're already here. It looks like here it is. The legislative session just ended, and I said on a couple of shows, maybe a month or 2 ago, I said, when the legislative session ends, it won't be long. I said, take a 2-week break. 3-week break, and next thing you know, they're going to be. Now I don't know if you're putting signs out yet or running commercial ads on the radio or Montana Daily Gazette or not yet, but we're in it, man. There's no denying it. First of all, thanks for being here, man, and appreciate you taking time again. And what do you think about that? You think that we may be in full swing, but it's definitely started. Any comment?
Yeah, it has started. I really got motivated with working, for the AG, but just following a lot of the session, was really motivated. So it didn't take long. I talked with Representative Cheetah a couple times during the session, and he had kind of encouraged me. He said, throw your name in the hat early. Don't wait. Maybe you can stave off a primary and certainly start building that name recognition. So that's what I'm doing. No time to waste. That's for sure when we got a state and a country to save.
Oh, indeed. And, I noticed in the introduction, some of the things that you stand for and you believe in certainly fall right in line with the way that I feel as well. I'm probably willing to go a little bit of a step further. That we're ready for it yet, but I say get the federal government completely out of Montana as much as possible. I mean, we have our own resources. I mean, we have intelligent adults for the most part here in this state that can run things without the federal government. I mean, they dictate things and mandate things from thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away, to 2,000-3,000 miles away, whatever it is. They don't know what goes on in the streets of Butte or downtown Kalispell, or they really don't know this. What's your thoughts about just the federal government in general, being reduced even out of the state, as much as we can get? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of one of the issues that I'm running on is reducing the size of the government. And actually, I was on an interview a couple of weeks ago. The first bill I intend to bring if I'm elected, I'm already thinking about that. Don't want to run and, have no plan. One of the first bills I intend to bring is what South Dakota did to give the state legislature the authority to review any executive order coming out of Washington, D.C. to determine if the state's going to follow it. I mean, I think there is absolutely no reason that here in Montana that we should have to be going along and playing nice with the Biden administration and their, radical attempts to fundamentally change our state, our values, and the country. So that's actually the first bill I intend to bring if I'm elected, is to give the legislature the authority to say, no, we're not going to follow these bogus executive orders that Biden, with a stroke of the pen, starts, trampling on Montanans' rights.
Well, there's one of the, of course, we know over the last year, it's sort of waning down now, but this whole virus thing and everything that occurred with that, and the masks and the lockdowns and the attempted lockdowns and now they're talking about potentially, the talk now you hear is potentially forced. They're going to try to do some forced vaccinations on people. Whether you agree with vaccines or not, right? Whether you're pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine or whatever you feel on vaccines, I don't think it's ever good to force someone to put something in their body that they don't want to have in their body. I mean, shouldn't we all, regardless of political stripe, regardless of your thoughts on if you approve vaccine or don't approve them, shouldn't we all have the right to choose not to do that? And another thing is a follow-up on that, Alden, you talk about pro-life and right to life. Isn't that something that their mantra of the other side has been for the last, 25 years? It's my body, my choice. How come that argument just falls away, and these same statists that are saying my body, my choice are now saying you better get vaccinated or you're the enemy? What's the disconnect? I mean, it's hypocrisy at its finest. You care to comment?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the modern left. That's what they do. And their message is failing. That's why they lost 11 seats in the state legislature last go round, and why they're going to lose more this time. Their message is failing. They have no coherent plan. Their agenda shifts in the wind based on the issue. You're right. They talk about my body, my choice when it comes to the abortion issue, when you're talking about killing an innocent baby. But when it comes to somebody not wanting to take and the CDC classifies it as an experimental gene therapy. It's not a vaccine. It's experimental gene therapy. When it comes to that, then it's, if you don't get vaccinated, then you can't go in. They don't want people to be able to go into stores, go into work. They, want to send people to your home. We already saw in Missoula, a young person was vaccinated without their parents' consent. It's here, it's happening, and that's what the left is doing, and that's why it's so important, I believe, for conservatives and young conservatives to get involved and to say, no, we're not going to stand for this behavior from the left, this radical agenda that has been, pushed in DC and is now being pushed here in Helena, Missoula, Bozeman, and all the cities here in Montana. It really just shows their hypocrisy.
I think Jesse King, I believe, is the father of that girl that I interviewed on the show to talk about he let it known that he explicitly said don't vaccinate her, and they did anyway. Right. I think there's we'll see what happens. I mean, I think he's going to seek legal counsel if he hasn't already. So we'll let that go down that route, and we hope that everything turns out well for him and his family, because it's a terrible thing. I mean, when is it when do you draw the line about people making decisions for minors? And we don't even have to get into the whole, gender surgery, and which is letting 4 and 5 and 6-year-old make that decision. I just don't even I can't even comment on that. That's just beyond the pale. I don't even know what to say. But there's got to become a point where we have to draw a line in the sand and say, listen, stop. Why are you trying to sexualize our children? Just leave sex out of it completely. They're young. They don't let them live their lives as children. There'll be plenty of that stuff that they have to worry about later on in life. What's it with the target with the children, Alden? I mean, your age group is a little older, but you've been in the target for probably since you've been born, like all of us. What do you think with the targeting with the children? I mean, they're doing it in the schools, they're doing it in the libraries. It has to be a focal point where we have to really. That's where the fight has to be. I think is in that arena. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the one of the key issues in my campaign, and really that might be one of the most important issues facing, I think, our society right now is what is going on in these schools. Not only the sexualizing of the youth, like you're saying. I mean, we've got these first and second graders being taught, about gender and, transgenderism and which is a mental disorder. And, they're sexualizing the youth. And then you add on to that what they're trying to do with critical race theory and the federal government pushing equity in the schools. This all in an attempt to indoctrinate our youth and fundamentally shift the country. I think they feel like if they can get the schools, then they win the war. So I think it's important. That's why I was so thankful that Attorney General Knudsen issued that order on critical race theory, that we're not going to stand for that here in Montana. And why I think that is the battleground of this. This is the war right now in the schools. And I'm so thankful. I saw actually last night in Gallatin County, a lot of people showed up to voice their concerns about CRT in the schools down there. And I think that is an issue that everybody has got to be aware of and get involved in, because we can't stand for that. If they start pushing this stuff in the schools, we've already seen the effect that it's had on the Gen Z era, I guess, and millennials too, like myself. It's scary to see what is happening, and we can't stand, idly by as it happens.
What do you think, Alden, there's been some alarming. Here's the thing. I have a really hard time, believing some polls, because I think they're certainly manipulated by the people that pay for the polls, right? I mean, they give them results that they want. But if the polls are correct, and you're sort of more on the ground, it's more your age group, I think your age range than mine, certainly. But there apparently is a large percentage of young adults that are all for socialism. They're saying like 30-something, between 30 or 40%, I believe, on some of the research that I've seen, or apparently some of the polls, if they're accurate. I mean, do you see it being that? I mean, that's a lot. I mean, that is an awful lot. If it's in the 30 to 40% range, that may be insurmountable. I mean, in some ways.
Yeah, it's certainly scary. That's kind of what I'm pitching my whole campaign on, is the Democrat in the race. We'll see if anybody else jumps in on the Democrat primary for House District 82. But the Democrat running in this race is a self-avowed socialist. He's this isn't me saying this. He goes, he makes no bones about it. He's a socialist, wants wealth taxes, to fund the police, all that nonsense. But you're right. It's scary. I don't know how much I believe those polls, but I think a big problem is we have so many of the young people that are not only getting it in the public education K to 12, but then they go off to the colleges and they're indoctrinating them with this stuff on the university campuses. I have a lot of friends that they came out of high school as conservatives. They go to college and now they're, hardcore leftists. And it's like, something is happening on these campuses. And I saw it at the University of Montana. I saw what they do. You have a staff there that's 80+% liberal socialist. They're pushing this stuff on the campuses and brainwashing the university students. And, I don't know what we do, but it's scary and it's a problem.
So we're going to take a really quick commercial break here, and we come back on the other side. Let's talk about some of the areas if the good folks of Montana and your district specifically decide to elect you to the Montana House. I'd like to know if you're some going to be active, sort of, in if you're going to try to put some legislation forth. I know they say sometimes in the first time you serve, it's kind of like getting used to it and getting your feet wet and kind of learning the ropes. Now, thankfully, you have a lot of really good like-minded conservatives that are there currently that I'm sure would help you along the way and help accelerate any of that. Help flatten that curve. How do you like that? Flatten that curve a little bit, right? So we'll talk about that and other things on the other side of the break. Why don't you go ahead and give out, if you can, Alden, give out your website. Matter of fact, here I have your website here. Let me pull it up and make sure that this is the right one. There we go, right there. Is that that is you? That's you. That's
Yep.
Here it is. AldenForMontana.com. AldenForMontana.com. And what kind of stuff can they find here on the website, Alden, when they check it out?
Yeah, they can find information about me on the issues I plan to fight for when I'm elected. You can donate. You can learn how to get involved, ask questions. There's contact forms. Basically, any information that you want, you can find on that website. And if it's not on there, then my contact info is on there too. And feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk with anybody.
Yeah, that's one great thing about the candidates here in Montana. There's never a shortage of just fantastic backdrops to take political photos. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like you drop a camera out of your pocket and it goes off accidentally, and it's like a postcard. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just, that's how it is around here. All right, Alden, we appreciate you coming on with us today. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we come back on the other side. We'll discuss moving forward. Sort of, we'll dig into those topics you had on your website a little bit more. You can flesh those out a bit, and we do appreciate you again coming on. We'll go ahead and put you on mute, and we'll be back after these brief messages on the broadcast. If you want to support us, you can go to MontanaGazetteRadio.com, MontanaGazetteRadio.com, or MontanaDailyGazette.com. We'll be back after these brief messages. If you like classic cars, exceptional service, and a money-back guarantee, then the Corner Shop in beautiful downtown Kalispell is the place for you. Whether it's an oil change, engine diagnostic, suspension work, or brakes all around, the Corner Shop has you covered. With expert technicians and a free consultation on all services, you can't go wrong with the Corner Shop. Did I mention the classic cars? While you're waiting for your expert service to be performed, take a stroll through the showroom to see Kalispell's smoothest collection of classic cars. The Corner Shop is conveniently located at 1212 South Main, just south of the courthouse. The Corner Shop is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., so drop by for an appointment or call 755-7777. That's 755-7777. The Corner Shop, Kalispell's full-service auto repair facility. Okay, folks, if you're in Kalispell and you want to get top-notch car repairs and many other things, car services, does all kinds of things. There oil changes, tune-ups, everything there at the Corner Shop. Dan Korn and his fine staff. Kathy's at the front desk. Those are great people there at the Corner Shop. And if you don't need car repairs, but you want to check out the classic cars that they have, tell you they're second to none here in the valley. They have a great little showroom there with some of these cars goes back like in the 30s and 40s. Some of these things, I mean, they're really, really nice, all shined up and everything. You don't touch them though. That's important. So check it out over at the Corner Shop, thecornershop.net, thecornershop.net. And again, we'll be coming out, you can see there under my name stuff there, the Montana Murder Hornet podcast. That is coming up real soon. It'll be JD Hall and I will be doing I don't know if we're doing 1 or 2 times a week podcast. I'm not really sure yet. But you can check that out. If you go to any of our latest articles that we publish on Montana Daily Gazette, click on that image that you see right there. You can get right to the podcast and check it out. And we are soon going to be, we're just delayed a little bit because of equipment. We're waiting for equipment. I think there's a shortage for the chips and the equipment that we need for the radio show. But very soon we're going to be in, it appears to be in the Billings market, the Helena market, Great Falls, and all through central Montana, and then moving west here, hopefully next towards Kalispell, Missoula, that type of thing. So please continue to support us on MontanaGazetteRadio.com, MontanaGazetteRadio.com, and MontanaDailyGazette.com. Okay, we're gonna have Alden Tonkay come back on the broadcast with us here. Let me unmute his microphone there. And welcome back. Thanks a lot for hanging on after the break, Alden. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so one of the things, before we get on to talking about some of the finer points of your platform, one of the things that really encourages me, being an old guy and all, is seeing people in your age group. Sure, like we stated before, there are, unfortunately, a large percentage of the population, I don't know how many, but they do believe in socialism because they just don't know any better. I don't think they're educated on what it really means and what the end game always is. But that aside, put those people aside for a second. As far as like pro-liberty, Constitution-loving, conservative people in that age group, I think there's many more of those, I think, and they are really starting to really raise their voice. And I think look at what's his name? He was on Braxton Mitchell. Mitchell. I mean, Dennison Rivera. There's just two examples off the top of my head. Both of those guys right there, man. I mean, they're young and they're making a difference. What's your thoughts about that, Alden? I mean, do you see that as well? I mean, you see a great wave, a red wave, whatever you want to call it, in your age group. Do you see them? Do you see new people coming on board, or is it do you see that happening? Talk about that if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Braxton and Dennison are both great friends of mine. Braxton actually just messaged me a second ago. He's watching it and he's loving it. So, yeah, Braxton Dennison's doing great too. He's the new chairman of Montana Young Republicans. So I think you're right. I think there is a big wave coming. At the GOP convention here just a couple weeks ago, was able to connect with a lot of these young conservatives that are getting involved. And I'm not going to, give anything away, but you're going to see a lot of them running for the legislature this time. Between 8 or 9, I think, is where we're at right now. Young, strong conservatives under the age of 26, probably, that are going to be running for seats that are winnable seats. So I think people like myself are finding that it's so critical to get involved. And, we're going for it. I think it's one of those things that it's hard to sit around and complain if you're not willing to get involved. So that's kind of how I see it. And getting involved may look differently for different people. But for me, with where I'm at, I think that this was the right time to do it. And I think a lot of, other young people, Braxton, Dennison, and a few others are have a similar, sentiment that, look, we got to get involved and we got to save the state.
Like Caitlin Ruck, I had her on my show before as well.
She's running.
I think she's probably just going to be maybe 18 or close to it, right when the time comes. I mean, she may have just got under the wire, but that's fantastic. I mean that, and what, I can't. It's escaping me, but what name do they give themselves? They're the generation. I forget what it was.
Gen Z.
Yeah, I know, but there was something with freedom or something with liberty, and it was like a play on one of the former. And I don't even pretend to know all of those different classes of the different age groups. At any rate, we'll move on because I can't remember. I can't even begin to remember what it was. But I was told a couple of times a few weeks ago. At any rate, we're delighted here. We support that at Montana Gazette Radio, Montana Daily Gazette. We certainly support the youth, and we try to repost articles from Dennison if he writes articles, or really anybody that shares similar viewpoints will post their articles. But he does some really good writing as well. So he's going to be a force, I think, here for a long time, and we do appreciate him and yourself and others. Okay, so let's dig into your platform a little bit here, and it was on the website. We'll bring it up here again, and go here to about. There we go. Okay, lower property taxes. Let's just take it one at a time. Lower property taxes, ensure quality education, reducing the size and impact of government, protecting Second Amendment rights, fighting back against the Biden administration's radical agenda. Let's pick this something near and dear to all of our hearts here in Montana, protecting our Second Amendment rights. Let's dig into that one a little bit if you can.
Yeah. I mean, make no mistake about it. The Second Amendment's under attack from the federal government. We can pretend that like it's not, but it is, and they're coming at it strong. And there's no better example than Joe Biden nominating David Chipman to lead the ATF. We hope that nomination is going to be killed. We kind of expect it to, and I was glad to be a part of helping with that letter that Austin sent out with 20 some odd other state attorney generals opposing him. But the Second Amendment's under attack, and in Montana, we have got to protect it. So we've got to be able to take a stand against anything coming out of Washington, D.C. and say, look, we're going to protect the Second Amendment rights of Montanans. I was happy to see that, House Bill 102 passed that gave us constitutional carry. But we need to be stronger than ever. That's why I think that bill that I brought forward about executive orders, checking any executive orders from President Biden, is critical, because I believe we already see that he did something with ghost guns. It's only a matter of time until either him or the U.S. Congress passes something that's going to try to infringe on Second Amendment rights in Montanans, and the legislature better be prepared to act, and they better not sit on their hands and wait for it to happen, because then it's too late. We saw that with election security. The Republicans sat on their hands and waited, and then it happened, and then they're sitting there kind of like, oh, well, it's too late now. So we better be prepared now to fight that.
Well put. Protecting the size and impact of government. Now, to do that in Montana here, keep in mind that you're fighting against the federal government that wants to increase their size. They want to give out, apparently, I guess starting here soon, from what I'm hearing, I don't pay attention to it much, but I guess some child tax credit checks are going to be going out or something here pretty soon if you have children under the age of certain. I'm not even really found, but they're trying to. They finally, Gianforte came out and said no more $300. Right. With the wages coming from wages, I guess pre-money coming from the government, they cut that off. I mean, we're always going to be in Montana, I believe, in competition to get smaller government. The Fed's always going to want bigger government and more government. Right. And I'm not saying that people in Montana government don't want bigger government too, because there are people out there that do. But generally speaking, the Feds are really perpetuate that larger government dependent upon the government. And here's the thing, I think, once they get everybody dependent upon them and they've given out free money, no one's going to want to vote them out, because they're going to go, well, if we vote these people out, then we don't get our monthly checks, and then we won't eat, and then we don't be able to drive our cars. And any thoughts on all that? All my rambling there, Alden?
Well, that's why you see liberal leadership that's been elected for decades in these cities, because that's what they've been doing in the inner cities across the country for decades. I mean, you look at Philadelphia, Chicago, Baltimore, all those cities that have been under liberal leadership, they're hellholes. But I mean, when they keep giving out money to these people and keep saying, keep them dependent on the government, so they keep electing them. So that's where Montana, I was happy that Governor Gianforte did that, and I was happy that he was the first governor to do that. There's no need for people to not be working right now. There's no excuse for it. People need to be back to work at this point. So I was happy to see that. One of the things Attorney General Knudsen campaigned on was reducing the size of the bureaucracy here in Montana at the DOJ, and I'm glad to see that he's done that. There's too many of these state and federal employees that are just sucking up paychecks, that are just a drain on society, drain on taxpayer money, and they need to be gone. We don't need, thousands of state employees. There's just no need for it. And getting the government out of people's lives, one of the things I found is that people, they just want to live their lives, be left alone to do what they want to do, go to work, raise their families. They don't want the government, telling them what to do, burdening them with higher taxes, taking their freedoms. They just want to be left alone to live their lives.
But the old saying, do you really expect the same people that got us into this mess to be the same ones that are going to get us out of this mess? Here's what I say often, Alden. I want to get your thoughts on this. The Trump phenomenon and all the big rallies and everything aside, mm-hmm. People need to concentrate, in my view, on their city at the end of the city hall, whatever you qualify, your town qualifies, either the city hall, the county commissioners, the mayor, and then to your state capital. That's where you really need to focus your attention. Washington D.C. is not the answer. Like I said, Donald Trump and his rallies and everything aside, that's not where the answer for Montana lies, is in Washington D.C. Nah. Here in Montana is where the answer to Montana's issues lie. Any thoughts on that, Alden? You could expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one other one is school boards. Those are critically important too. Local government there is a clear separation of powers defined in the Constitution. Local government, state government have rights. They have the ability to get things done. And you're right. We only send 3 people to Washington, D.C., 2 senators and a representative. Now it's going to be 4. But, when you're talking of just, a small handful of people that are going to Washington, D.C., and, Senator Daines and Congressman Rosendale are great. But you're right. We've got to get involved here at the local level. Concerned parents need to run for school board. Concerned citizens need to run for the county seats, for local city councils, and county commissioners, county attorney, county sheriff. Those are important positions that we need to really focus on, and they make a huge difference. And the state legislature too. When you look at some of the things that they were able to accomplish in the last session, it should have been more, but they did get some good things done, and it's going to make a huge difference. Constitutional carry being a big one.
Absolutely, indeed. Okay, we're coming here towards the end of the interview. Is there anything that I didn't get a chance to talk about, or any questions that I didn't ask you that you maybe wish I would have asked you, or anything that you wanted to comment on here before we give out your websites again and your contact information?
Yeah, one last thing I wanted to touch on here in Helena, and it's become such a big problem. I didn't even realize it living, kind of outside of the city, until I started working at the DOJ, is what a big problem Helena specifically, but the whole state has with the crime. It's totally out of control. I was looking up some statistics. Helena's crime rate is over double the national average, 3 times the Montana average. What is it? 172 violent crimes in Helena last year. 172 violent crimes in Helena last year. So that's something that I want to talk about more on my campaign, and I plan to run on too, is reducing violent crime, reducing drugs pouring into the state, and really focusing on that, supporting our law enforcement in their efforts, because if we don't have a safe place to live, then everything else kind of crumbles down around it, around us. So that's something else that I plan to focus on and educate myself, speak with people, and really fight for if I get elected too, is the crime epidemic plaguing the state.
Well, you're very well spoken, and I like your ideas, and I think that you have a potential for a long career in public service, if that's what you choose to do. As long as you never forget, as long as you never forget the fact that it is public service, and I know you know that.
Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with prospering. We of course want everyone to prosper, but understand, never lose touch with the fact that it's the folks, and I don't think you will. Any websites you want to give out here? Well, again, let me just go check out your website real quick. We don't have to give it out. We can go right to it real quick, and there we go. It is aldenformontana.com, aldenformontana.com, and your contact information is on there. Is that correct? Where people can?
Yep, down at the bottom of the homepage, you can get. I think it's my contact info.
Okay, let's go there. Okay, there we go. I see it there. Contact. Okay, so someone could just go here, put in their question or whatever they have here, and send it to you, and you get those, and you monitor those, and they'll be getting to where you're at.
Yep. And Excellent. Then also my social media, it's at Alden for Montana on both Facebook and Instagram. You can connect with me there too. And like I said, I'm happy to talk with anybody, even if you don't live in House District 82. If you win, you're representing the people of Montana. So I'm happy to talk with anybody and learn more about, anybody's concerns of the issues facing us.
And your number's right there listed. So it's right there. It's everything's open. That's one of the things I love about the people in Montana. They just give their regular personal numbers out and go, just, hey, call me up if you want to talk.
Give me a call
right?
anytime.
That's excellent. Very good. Alden, thanks so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Really appreciate your time, and a lot of great topics that we talked about. We certainly agree with, and we thank you for your service, and good luck. We'll talk again, I'm sure, several times probably before you actually have the primary. So thanks again for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Jim, for having me. I really appreciate it and enjoyed the discussion.
Me as well. Thanks again. Take care.
Okay.
All right, folks, there goes Alden Tonkay. He's running there for House 82, I believe, there by Helena. We do appreciate him coming on the broadcast today. We have several other things that we're working on here. Especially when it comes to this credit union thing, we continue to have evidence pouring in. So I have to parse through some of that as they're going to be doing a report later on tonight as well. So please support this broadcast at montanagazetteradio.com, montanagazetteradio.com, or montanadailygazette.com, and check out the articles that we publish there every day. and spread them around to your friends. Thanks so much for joining us here today on the broadcast. We want to thank our guest Alden Tonkay for taking time out to come in today. Until next time, this is James White for Montana Gazette Radio, saying bye now.